All right, good morning or good afternoon, depending on when you're going to be watching this as you get into the first week of our semester. Um, for the fall 2025, I'd like to welcome you to your particular English course. I will be your instructor. My name is Mr. Patrick Wilson, and I look forward to working with everybody throughout the next 3 or 4 months. Um, Welcome, some of you. If this is your first time, I know there's going to be some dual enrollment students. There's going to be some traditional college students. There's going to be some folks that have been here for a little bit and are just coming around to take English. So, depending on um, depending on your particular course, give me 1 second here. Uh, I will look back at that here momentarily. They're, sending out emails here um, sort of last couple of days before the semester starts. Okay. So again, my name is Patrick Wilson. I will be your English instructor. I hope that you've had a wonderful summer. If this is your first time, welcome to Coastal Pines. If you did take some summer courses or some spring courses in the past, welcome back. Um, Hopefully, if you did your orientation or your advisor or whoever helped you sign up for the course, they kind of went through the whole deal with Blackboard. I know some of my courses are going to be in person, meaning you're going to meet 2 days a week, or if you're a hybrid class, we'll talk a little bit more about this when you show up for your hybrid class. The hybrid class meets one day a week, and then you have the rest of the 6 days to get whatever work that we don't do in that one day meeting, which is usually about 2 hours or so, completed before we meet again. If you're strictly online, then basically you're working online 1 week to the next. So most things on the online course, of course, you want to go through and look at the syllabus. I can kind of show you. Basically, what I'm going to pull up is just one course. Um, I'm just going to show you briefly where things are going to be at as it relates to the syllabus. Obviously, the modulars are going to be different. I mean, if you're in 1101 course, your workload and your work is going to be different than folks in a English 1010 or 1102 or Reading 90 or English 90. So I'm just giving you sort of a brief overview of Blackboard and where you can start finding stuff, so you're not sort of caught off guard, the first couple of days, because most of my classes have stuff due early on that week or toward the end of the week. So that's why I'm sort of giving you this little introduction video. Um, I've been teaching English. I've been here at Coastal Pines for uh, 10 years, going on 11. I've basically been in education, some form of education, whether it's tutoring, subbing, working at various colleges or various other schools, probably for the last 20, 25 years, really. So I've been doing this for a while. Um, I have been, I've had some work published, creative work, short stories, poems, essays. So I think I know, kind of what goes into a successful piece of writing. And that's generally when you look at the syllabus. Again, I'm not going to look at everybody's individual syllabus. I know when I show you, you can kind of read through them. If you have questions about the content, uh, of the syllabus or in the syllabus, please email me. We can discuss it. If need be, we can kind of make a video a little bit more detailed. But I think the syllabus is pretty cut and dry. Um, Most of my classes, I think all the classes, are going to have a syllabus quiz that first week to see if did you really go through and read the syllabus, did you pay attention to it, because that will be probably your first graded assignment for me, will be that syllabus quiz. Um, it's not anything that should be too difficult. It shouldn't take you too terribly long as you read and kind of understand the syllabus. Some of the questions may be multiple choice, some of them may be matching, fill in the blank, true, false, whatever the case may be, but they deal with the syllabus for that particular course. So make sure you go through, because the syllabus is sort of like the contract of the particular course between you and me throughout the next 15 weeks, right? Roughly about 4 months or so. So we do start on Monday. We will end probably the first or second week of December. We do have a few holidays in there. We have Labor Day coming up. And then we have a Thanksgiving break, and that's about it. If you are a dual enrollment high school student, obviously you may have additional holidays every month, but we don't. We only have Labor Day and Thanksgiving break, and that's it. Meaning we have to go the rest of August, the rest of September, all of October. There's really no holidays in October for us. November we only have the Thanksgiving. We don't have Veterans Day off or anything like that. December we don't even get close enough to the Christmas break. Once the semester ends, that's sort of your break until spring of 2026 begins. So what I want to do is, again, I'm going to pull up just one of my English courses. It may be, yours. It could be 1101. It could be a 1010. It could be 1102. But basically what I'm showing you is it sort of applies to all the courses as it relates to the Blackboard platform, just where you can kind of get started and start seeing some of where you're going to find your work in that type deal. Of course, you want to go through, in your individual course and look to see where things are at. Get a feel of Blackboard. If this is your first time using Blackboard, it's a little bit different. If you're not used to a Blackboard platform, it's different than Google Classrooms. It could be some folks say it's a little bit similar to it. I don't know. I never really had to use Google Classrooms. We didn't do Google Classrooms during the COVID deal. We did Blackboard. So I will get rid of me, and I will start showing you some of the stuff that you're going to see in Blackboard. So you should see on my screen, this would be, when you go to your particular course, you're probably going to see something that looks like this. Of course, these are all the courses I'm teaching this semester. As you can tell, I'm kind of loaded up. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I got 9 English courses if they all make. So I'm going to be fairly busy. Depending on how many classes you got, 3 or 4, whatever the case may be, they'll be loaded up here. You'll find that particular course that's related to the English course here. So again, I'm just going to pull up one that's random. Here I'm going to do 1101. If you're in 1102, you can find your 1102. But the general setup is going to be similar to all cross platforms. When you come on here, you're going to see click start here. You want to go ahead and hit that downward arrow, and this will pull up some important information that you want to read. Now, not everything that's on my page is going to be on yours, right? Some things are going to be hidden to students. The most important stuff that you're going to need to get started should be visible. One will be that welcome message to the course. You might want to click on that and kind of review that. Simple syllabus. You want to click on this and read through the simple syllabus. Because again, one of your first assignments this week is going to be a syllabus quiz. And I'm going to know, depending on how many students are in each course, how many people at least viewed the syllabus. So if there's 25 people in the course, I hope to see that at least 25 people have opened this up, and it'll show me 25 students viewed. Now, of course, you can click it and just look at this page and go on. Of course, that's your prerogative. But if you don't do so well in that quiz, that's going to tell me you probably just clicked on it, maybe skimmed through it, and then you went back out. So I would definitely go through this particular syllabus. You're going to find information about your textbook. Your textbook is, I'll show you where you can find that for most of my courses. If there's a different textbook, I kind of let you know, but for the most part, it's going to be an OER or a virtual textbook. You're going to be able to find it on Blackboard. If you're strictly online, you're probably going to want to read this stuff about Respondus Lockdown Browser. if you're not familiar with that, because during your midterm, about the second week or so of October, you're going to have a midterm exam, in the 1101 and the 1102, and you're going to need that respondus if you're strictly online. Now, if you are a hybrid or if you meet multiple times a week, we're going to do our midterm in class. So you won't need to do the respondus unless there's something that, catastrophic happens and we kind of have to use that route. We're in hurricane season. We got Aaron out there now. We're not really sure what's going to happen with her. So if something goes on where we have to cancel class or something of that nature, and it's during that week that we were, going to have a midterm in class, then you may have to do the midterm via respondus if, the internet and everything else is available. But again, we will worry about that as it gets closer. But again, if you're strictly online, which I have several 1101s, I have 1102 that's strictly online, you're going to have to do the respondus regardless. There's no way out of that. And pretty much you're going to have to do that for each one of your online classes if it's strictly online. So you definitely want to read through this material. As it gets closer to that particular date, I will provide additional information, or I can show you where you can find additional information now if you want to go through it. This is my contact information. I will sort of update the office hours and the tutoring hours as we move along, because usually that first week's stuff kind of shifts. This is my office number. You can call if I'm not here, either I'm traveling back because I live in Brunswick. I pretty much, this Camden campus is my home campus. I'm here pretty much Monday through Thursday, roughly 7:30 to 6. I have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. Most of us have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. So when it comes to, emailing me, this would probably be the best address to reach. Make sure that you do capitalize the P and W in my email, because if you lowercase it, I can't guarantee that I will receive it, or it could be weeks down the road. So you want to make sure that you capitalize the P and the W. The other thing that you want to make sure is that you are using your Coastal Pines student email. Don't use a high school email. Don't use a Gmail. Don't use a Hotmail. Don't use any other email except your Coastal Pines student email. And the reason for that is our particular IT department in our college has firewalls built up. So if you send a email from outside of the actual network, chances are I probably won't receive it. And if I do, if it does get through, it probably be weeks, maybe months down the road. So if you want a question answered a little faster, then let's say in October, if you send something out tomorrow, for instance, then I would use that Coastal Pines Technical College student email that everybody has because you're enrolled in this class. And that's the other thing. You can, when it deals with Blackboard sending out emails, we can send out emails all day long. You're not going to be able to check your emails in Blackboard. You're going to have to go to your Microsoft Word Outlook, which again, going through the college orientation and talking to your advisors and stuff like that, they should have showed you that you have a email platform that looks sort of like this. This is my particular platform. You're going to have folders in the, focus. A lot of times when I send stuff through Blackboard, or when you send stuff through Blackboard, it comes through the other, or sometimes it may come into the junk. That's, whatever the IT, whatever the distance learning has set up as it relates to the Blackboard email. I don't know why it goes through the other or the junk and doesn't go to the focus, but I'm letting you know in case you say, well, I never received that email from you that you said that you sent. You might want to check your junk folder, because it will be there if I do send something. So just sort of keep that in mind. The email probably be the quickest and easiest way really to reach me, since I'm on campus, 10-hour days, 4 days a week. If I can't get back to you quickly, I will. Chances are I'm probably in a class. I do have several in-person classes, or I'm dealing with, either some tutoring in person or tutoring via Teams. or I'm working with some of my other online courses. But generally, if you send an email between 7:30 and 6, you'll probably get a response before I leave the office that day. If it's after I leave the office, after 6, chances are you may still get a response later that night, or it could be, up to 48 hours. It could be the very next day, especially, I mean, if you send stuff at 10, 11 o'clock at night, naturally it's probably going to be probably the next day that I respond to you. If it relates to a holiday or a weekend, it could be up to 48 hours before I can respond back. Because again, just like you like to have your free time. You have your own life outside of school. You have a family. You got kids. I got, wife and kids. I got my own life as well. And I'm not just going to be camped out behind the computer Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, since I'm pretty much that way 4 days a week as it is. So, I mean, if you do send me something, you will get a response back. Again, make sure you're using your Coastal Pines student email. If you send me a different email with a different email, I probably won't get it, or I may just delete it. Right? And that's more or less coming from the people I work for and my bosses, not to reply to emails, even though that, you would think a K-12 email would be legit and reliable. They don't want us to respond to any email that doesn't sort of pass their test coming through their particular network because of, viruses and, phishing emails and that type of stuff. As you go through, you want to look at your course learning outcomes. I guess they're going to be, obviously they're going to be different from an English 1010, English 90, a reading 90, English 1102, 1101. So you want to go through and make sure that you read those. I'm not going to sit here and read all of this stuff. I'm not going to insult your intelligence. You're in this class. I know hopefully you can read at this point. You want to take your time and look at the classroom procedures. A lot of this is going to be, I mean, obviously, if you're hybrid or in-person class, some of this stuff like food will apply to you a little bit more. If you're online, obviously, you're not necessarily coming into a physical classroom. So some of this stuff, as it relates to the procedures, may not apply to you as much because you are a virtual student. You go through, you look at the actual attendance requirements. You want to click some of these hyperlinks. They are hyperlinks that should be working. Attendance, withdrawal, that type deal. This is sort of the grading system. Most of my classes, or all of my classes, go on a 10-point increment, meaning an A is going to be the same in every class, 90 to 100, 80 to 89 is a B, 70 to 79 is a C, 60 to 69 is a D, 0 to 59 is an F. Most people need to have a C or higher to pass to get credit to move on. Obviously, if you make a D or an F, you're not going to be passing or you're going to be failing. And you would have to probably retake that particular course before you could probably proceed into another course, or definitely before you graduate. And again, if you transfer or go to another college, you're technically, I mean, you're going to have to take that, that 1101 or 1102 because they're considered core requirements. So you're going to have to take these courses at some point to be able to get a degree. Where it's going to be different is going to be in the grade breakdowns for your assignment for each course, because each course is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be set up different. I mean, obviously, you can expect that you will be doing some reading and you will be doing some writing. After that, you may have some, peer reviews, some discussion questions, some quizzes, presentations, final exams, midterms. Of course, it's going to different, and it's going to vary, whatever course you're in. So if you're in 1102, your assignments are going to be a little bit different than, say, an English 1010 or an English 1101. So just make sure that you go through and you look at your individual course syllabus that relates to your particular course. Academic cheating, you want to go through and look at that. Falsification, plagiarism, AI issues. Basically the big thing is the first offense. When you get caught, and you will get caught, it's going to be a 0 automatically on that assignment. The second offense, if you're foolish enough to do it, which I hope you're not, then you're going to fail the course automatically, no matter what your grade is. and then we go before a board or a panel, and then they go through the process of determining, hey, should we, besides this student failing the course and this stuff going on in their transcript, should we suspend them for a semester, a year, or if it's really severe, meaning you're doing it in multiple courses, should we just bar them from going to this particular college? The other thing that you want to kind of keep in mind are zeros. There's enough assignments in the course. I try not to give you more than what you can handle because, again, I'm going to, if all these classes, I have 9 classes, so I'm going to be grading a good bit throughout the semester this time. So I try to balance it out where we are still covering the state standards. You're getting the information that you paid for and that you need to be successful in a particular course to sort of use the materials and the information that you learn in one course to help you in other courses, because that's usually what English courses will do. They will help build that foundation for you to be successful in other courses that require, writing and heavy critical and analytical reading. So like if you're 1101, eventually you're probably gonna have to take 1102. So you're gonna need the information and need the knowledge and skills that you learned in 1101, and hopefully you kept them, because in 1102 you were just building on those skills. So the same thing, if you're in 1102 and you're gonna take like an American Lit course or a Brit Lit course at some point, you're gonna need the skills that you learned in 1101 and 1102 to be successful in some of those higher upper level English courses. And again, most of your courses are going to involve reading. So you're going to need to have that critical and analytical background in reading. And then a lot of these humanity courses, history, psychology, you're still going to have to write and do some, either discussion posts where you're writing, or you may have to write additional essays or research papers before you end that course. It may not be always an MLA 9 style, maybe an APA style for those courses, but a research paper is still a research paper, whether you're writing one for me or if you're writing one for a psychology class at the University of Berkeley out in California. So a lot of this stuff is going to build. So that's why it's important that you apply yourself the first time around, so you're not having to take the course multiple times. That's time and money on your part. Um, Generally, folks do really well in my course because they turn stuff in on time. They don't plagiarize. They don't copy and paste the paper. They don't let AI write the entire research paper. They don't buy, a $500 narrative paper from some Chinese website that said that, they can write the paper because they got PhD folks on payroll, which you don't know if they do or not. But they do have your credit card now, and they can go hog wild with whatever, run up a whole bunch of charges without you even knowing it. Um, so if you ask questions, you attend regularly, when it comes to the online, you check in, you submit work, you get help when you need it, whether it's in-person tutoring, whether it's tutor.com, we have an online tutoring service, or whether, we do something virtually through Teams like we're doing now. And you just, continue to go through the process of the course. Where folks usually make D or lower in my courses are, folks that do plagiarize or use AI multiple times throughout an assignment, or the stuff that do turn in, they don't get help on when they needed help. They don't send me drafts of their essays and that type stuff. And their grade is a lot lower than what they thought it was going to be. Because again, this is going to be a little bit different, especially for high school students. I mean, this is a college level course. We're going to treat it as a college level course. So things are going to be due weekly. The grading could be a little harsher depending on what you're used to. If you're a high school student, we're going to grade it we're going to grade it as a college level course. English 1101 and 1010 are basically freshman level English courses at the university and college level. English 1102 is a sophomore level college course. So we're going to grade it accordingly. And that first paper you get back, you might have got a B or an A in 11th grade, but for me, you might have a C or D because I consider myself to be I'm a fair and balanced grader, but if I'm reading and I sense a bunch of BS, or the grammar is not all up to par that you should. I mean, if you have K through 12th grade, you should know how to, fix a comma splice or a dangling modifier. If you can't spell by the time, in our day and age where there's spell check pretty much on every website, Microsoft Word, where you're going to want to type your essays, has spell check. Your phone's got spell check. There are free and online dictionaries and thesaurus. You shouldn't have any, there should be no excuse about, misspelling words in 2025, because there's stuff out there that you can get for free. I'd recommend maybe that you get Grammarly. If you don't have it already, use that grammar check and stuff. I know there's some AI built into Grammarly, so be careful about that. But as it relates to the grammar and the spelling, I would use Grammarly with Microsoft Word. That would be another sort of two tools that you can use, especially if you're going to send me rough drafts. You would probably want to get the grammar and the spelling and all that stuff, what we call in our field surface areas, already perfected by the time you send me drafts. So we can really, I can read your draft, won't have to start commenting on all these commas and semicolons that you're making mistakes with, and all these spellings that you have. And I can focus on the organization, the coherence, the unity, the overall message of your essay. That's what we need to really focus on, because the grammar and spelling stuff, I mean, you've been doing grammar and spelling probably since the first grade. So if you need additional help with grammar and spelling, then you need to set up some tutoring meetings. You need to do some tutor.com meetings. You need to go on, Google and get some worksheets and practice with that. Because we got 15 weeks and we got a lot to do standard wise in 15 weeks. And I just don't have time to spend, none of those weeks just focusing on punctuation at this point. Most of y'all are probably going to be, 18 or older or 16 or older. You've had grammar in school at this point. For the most point, you probably learned how to write an essay. Maybe not totally well. I would get you to that point where you're writing a college academic scholarly essay, because the essays that you write in middle and high school are a little bit different than what we write here. Ours have to be, multiple paragraphs, more than 5 paragraph essays, right? If you got a research paper that needs to be 8 to 10 pages, you can't do that effectively in just 5 paragraphs. You're going to have 15 paragraphs or more with sources to be able to do a college level research paper and be successful at it. So you want to read through that, copy notice, look at some of this campus police services, students with disabilities. You can kind of click there. Some information here about tutor.com. I can show you where you can find that on your Blackboard. Library services, campus security. Again, if you're online, you're probably not going to have to worry so much about needing to know these numbers, but they're out there in case you do have a in-person class. Equal opportunity statement. A couple folks here that you might want to kind of keep in mind if you need that. And then we get into the course schedule. Again, your course schedule is going to be different depending on what your course is. But this will sort of tell you we deal with things in modulars. And when you think modulars, you can, exchange that with weeks. So modular 1 would be like week 1. Week 4 would be modular 4. Modular 9 would be week 9. So you can kind of go back and forth with that, but Blackboard wants us to really kind of call them modulars now. And if you scroll all the way down, this is your assignment checklist. Dates are subject to change, just like the syllabus is scheduled to change. If something does change, I will let you know either in a announcement, an email. If it's in-person class, I'll let you know sort of in person. For the most part, I probably won't add additional things. I probably won't necessarily take away too much that's on here either. Everything's sort of, I wouldn't say 100% set in stone, but this is a good indication about how things are going to work. If I'm missing something here, I will add it to the particular schedule. If it's something I already had in play and it just didn't load up here. But for the most part, if I do change something, it's going to be, moving a due date back instead of forward. But for the most part, you can kind of see what's due, what type of assignment it is, and you just sort of go through use this as your checkpoint when it comes to assignments. So this is the syllabus. Again, you want to read your particular syllabus for your class. If you scroll down, you're going to find that textbook, whatever that OER for your particular class is there. Since we're dealing with MLA 9 as it relates to style and citation and writing essays, you're going to find some information here on that. There's templates in Microsoft Word, but you can also do some YouTube video searching and all that stuff about how to set up particular essays in MLA format. I will talk a little bit more about that as we get closer to that first essay assignment, which would be coming up in short time. If you need additional help with Blackboard, you can click here and go through all of that information there. This deals with the Respondus browser and monitor. Again, if you're strictly online, you probably want to read that before October, if not sooner. This is tutor.com. It's basically 24/7. You click on it, follow the instructions. For the most part, I think it gives you 10 free hours a semester. So you want to kind of use this wisely. You don't want to burn up all your 10 hours in the first 2 weeks. So I would definitely use it when it comes to, rough drafts of essays and that type stuff. If you're taking other courses like math and, psychology, you can use it for those too. But again, kind of keep in mind, you're only going to have a 10-hour limit. After that 10-hour limit expires, it's going to want to start forcing you to pay for additional online tutoring. But again, you can always come to an in-person tutoring session for me. If you live in a Camden or Glen or somewhere close that you can make that trip. Otherwise, you can send me an email and we can schedule something that will fit in both of our schedules, Monday through Thursday, via Teams like we're doing now. As it gets closer to the research paper, or if you have just general questions about maybe how to cite a source or find a source, if you're going to want to use one for a particular paper, you always have the library and the 24/7 library chat. We can talk a little bit more about that usually as it gets closer to the research paper. That's going to be available to you. And then again, for some courses, you may already have a assignment deadline here. But again, if you go back through to your simple syllabus and scroll down all the way to the bottom, you will find that checklist again. And then you get into the modulars of your courses. So here you click on it, you will find various folders. You click on this stuff, it will probably drop down some additional information. You click on, like here, Modular 1 readings. You go through the process. A lot of times, if there's page numbers, they're connected to your OER, your virtual textbook, which I just showed you. You click on this, that might take you to a supplemental or a web page version that you will find in that textbook. And then you just scroll on down and keep going. I mean, for this is where your syllabus quiz is. You click on it and follow the instructions. For this particular class, it's going to be due on the 24th, which would be a Sunday. This is one of my online 1101s. But your syllabus quiz, depending on what course you're taking and if you meet in person or not, may have a different due date. So you might want to double check the due dates. The due dates are generally going to be there. In this particular course, if you go down, you're going to find some essay assignments. The first one is open on my end. As we get closer to essay 2, that will open up. Essay 3 will open up. Some courses, they will open up as it goes from one particular modular to the next or 1 week to the next. As we finish a particular week or a modular, some of your weeks may, no longer be visible to you. So what you may want to do is make sure that you maybe download or print out or copy and paste the important stuff from that particular week on a Word folder or a Word document, or have a folder with you that you could put information in case stuff starts to become not available anymore. Just give me room to open up the next assignments and stuff. Peer reviews, we talk a little bit about that if you're in my 1010 1101 course. And then you have some quizzes. Again, this is usually the setup for my 1101 course. Your 1010 course, your 1102 course is going to be a little bit different So you want to gotta sort of go through and look up, what's to come during the first week of Modular 1. But I will say that the click here, the start, that type deal, the welcome portion of each course will be similar. So I hope this is sort of a good indication of what to sort of expect as we get ready for, Mondays when we start, which would be the 18th of August. So I'm hoping, with that and with whatever experience maybe that you had um, in orientation, hopefully you did some orientation. This will sort of help you get started. Again, next week, if you need any help, please email me and I will try to assist you as quickly as I can. Depending on how busy next week is and stuff, I may try to give another video midweek or toward the end of the week as it relates to your individual course, especially for my online courses, because I mean, again, 1102 and 1101 have different materials that you're going to need to be concentrating on throughout the semester. So I try to give some weekly lecture videos as much as I can, as much as I have time to. Some of your courses already have some built-in videos that sort of supplement what I would talk about lecture-wise if I don't have a chance to give a lecture video. But again, you can always email me and ask questions. We can always set up a tutoring meeting, in person or via Teams, and we can tackle whatever issues that you have. As long, a lot of this stuff too is really it's 50-50. I'm here throughout the week, but I mean, if you wait until Sunday and an assignment is due at 11:59 and you start thinking about it at 8 o'clock at night on Sunday, thinking it's fairly easy. And then you get to 10:30 on Sunday and then you're freaking out because you don't know what to do. I mean, the assignment's probably been up there for the last 6 days, maybe longer. At that point, it's kind of late, right? That's why I wouldn't wait necessarily until the weekend and start doing this stuff unless you are 100% sure you know what you're doing. Because again, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, yeah, I will, try to get back in touch with you, but I'm not technically on the clock Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's my days off. So you may, if it's something quick, something I can answer really quick, I'm not, at dinner or playing with the kids, you may get a response back within that hour or so. But I mean, obviously, if you're waiting the Sunday night at 10 o'clock, I'm getting ready to get the kids to bed because I got school the next day, trying to wind down with my wife. Chances are I'm not going to get that email until I come into work after 7:30 on Monday. And by then, the assignment's already going to be due, right? Because it's due that Sunday. So I wouldn't wait. I wouldn't procrastinate because procrastination with these courses will not be your favorite tag team partner. Your grade will suffer. Your health will probably start suffering if you procrastinate too much. And generally, what I say, every zero you make takes you down 20 overall points. So let's say that you make a zero on the syllabus quiz, and the next week you make a zero on something because you just didn't turn it in. Well, right now you're missing 40 points. So since those are basically going to be the first two assignments, you're basically like a negative 40 in the course. Even though we don't have negatives, you're basically at a zero at that point because we don't have enough grades already in the book to sort of counteract that. And again, each zero is going to take you down 20 points. So let's say that you did have 100. Well, you made two zeros. Now you got a 60. And you would need to probably make at least 5 or 6 100s just to be able to pull that zero up to a passing grade of 70. So what I'm getting at is basically 1 0 will probably bring you down 2 letter grades. 2 zeros will bring you down 4, and 3 or more, you're basically failing. I mean, with 4, you're pretty much at a D, depending on where your grade is at. If you're at an 80 and you make 2 zeros, you're basically failing now. So keep up with deadlines, keep up with due dates. I generally don't take late work just because I got so many classes. We're adults here. I'm not going to be hunting you down. I have it set up where if you don't turn stuff in, once the Dropbox closes, it automatically grades it as a 0 if there's nothing there. If I can't read a file, meaning if I can't download it or read it, it's going to be a 0. Please use Microsoft Word. When you upload your essays, don't send me a PDF. You send me a PDF file, the only thing I can do with that is read it and give it a grade. But again, the big thing is follow deadlines, follow instructions, ask for help way ahead of time before something is due, not the last minute. And just keep up the material of the course, and you should be successful. Um, that's the point, right? You want to get through these next 15 weeks so you can move on with your program. All right, I'm gonna cut this now. I'm gonna try to make these videos, about an hour or less. This one is a little bit less, which is good. To give you enough time to sort of, listen to it, watch it, and then go through the material in the Blackboard course. Again, as it gets closer to the next week, like week 1 to week 2, I will start opening up that week. So if you start looking, toward the end of the week, Wednesday or Thursday, you will see the next week slowly start to open up. So that give you some time if you want to get ahead, or if you feel confident that you can move ahead to go ahead and start on the next week's assignments. I generally don't try to open up the whole course all at once because I don't want to overwhelm folks. And 2, if you get too far ahead and thinking you know what you're doing when you're not, that's going to cause disaster to your grade and to your overall mental health, because you're going to think you're doing things right when you're not actually getting asking questions, and you're turning stuff in, and here everybody's still on modular 2 and you're a modular 8, but you really screwed a lot of that stuff up. So now you're going to have to go, it's going to be double work on your part, double work on your part, double work on mine. So that's why I open one up for the week, and about halfway through that week, I start opening up the next week. That way you can the pace is still there. If you need the full week for one, that's great. If you are a student that likes to sort of get ahead with the next week, you can finish up one and start on the next. All right. I hope everybody has a great first week. Don't hesitate to reach out. Don't be shy. I'm here to help. I want to help, but I can't read minds, so I'm not going to try to. So if you don't reach out for the help, I'm going to just assume you know what you're doing. All right. Until next week or so, take care. Have a good weekend and good luck.